So after receiving Brad's feedback, the main takeaways from it for me were the technologies that he recommended, and the ones that he recommended I will be implementing when I teach this lesson again next year. I added them to the slide in the order that they would be used in the lesson. So the first one would be Jamboard. So using Jamboard would be a way to assess their knowledge that they have going into the lesson. So, for example, maybe something they knew about maps, about Australia, the indigenous people of Australia, any artwork from Australia. Those would be things that I might be able to assess with Jamboard to see their starting point. Google Maps would be a really good resource to use for when the students are creating their maps. So, for example, if they were traveling to their aunt's house for Thanksgiving, they could type in their address, type in the address of their aunt's house, and then they could look for landmarks along the way that they could add to their maps. They could use those as the symbols in their journey key as well. So that would be a really good way for them to see an actual place. If they were doing an imaginary map, that wouldn't be as helpful, but for a real destination, that would be very helpful. Brad recommended Kahoot for a formative assessment at the end. So Kahoot is like a game that kids play, but you can assess and find out what they've learned. So I could use that to assess things that the students learned about the indigenous Australian culture, about any of the artwork that we talked about in the lesson, and then I'd be able to see how well they learned the key points of the lesson. The last one that's there is actually a link, and it is a great resource that Brad found on Australian Aboriginal art education and teacher resources. There's a lot of stories on there. There's examples of the art. There's lesson plans on there. So I am definitely going to be checking that out and implementing that next year. So Brad came up with some awesome suggestions for me that I can't wait to implement in the future to make my lesson better.